Swadikap. Good morning. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PATA Destination Marketing Forum 2022 here in Hat Yai, Songkhla, Thailand. Today's event, under the theme Building Back Sustainably Through Cultural Heritage and Community-Based Tourism, is generously hosted by the Thailand Convention Exhibition Bureau, the Tourism Authority of Thailand, the Designated Areas for Sustainable Tourism Areas, the Songkhla Convention Exhibition Bureau, Prince of Songkhla University, and Songkhla City. We have a fantastic program for you all today, but first, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Brangan, and I am the Chief of Staff at the Pacific Asia Travel Association, and I will be your host for today. Now, before we get to our opening speeches, as well as our opening ceremony, I do have a few housekeeping notes that I need to share with you all this morning. So, as required under the laws of the Kingdom of Thailand, I do need to inform you about the Personal Data Protection Act. Today's event will be filmed and photographed, so if you do not want your likeness used in any promotional materials that we'll be using after this event, do let our staff know, but it will not be used for any commercial purposes. Also, your personal data will not be used for any commercial purposes, but may be used for promotional purposes by the host or by PATA. Now, just want to also be aware that the fire exits are both to the sides of the room and in the back. So if the fire alarm goes off, please do exit the room in an orderly fashion. If you are feeling unwell or if you're injured in any way, we do have a first aid room just outside of the hall onto your right. So please do not hesitate to use the first aid room or contact any of the host staff or our staff if you require any assistance. Lastly, please do not leave your belongings unattended, particularly during the coffee breaks or lunch. Now, PATA is committed to sustainability, and today's event is net zero. So thank you to all of you who've contributed $10 to help offset your carbon footprint. If you would like to contribute to helping make this event net zero, please do contact the PATA staff at the registration desk, and you can contribute $10 to help offset your carbon footprint here today. Now, I won't go through all the health and safety protocols, but I do want to highlight one particular item. In case you need a PCR test before you return home, we do have a list of facilities nearby which you can access fairly easy. That list is available at the information desk in the lobby, or you can contact the PATA staff. And please do wear your masks while you're in the hall. Quality masks are recommended, so KN95 or KF95. If you don't have a mask, we do have masks available. So please do put your phone on silent so as to not disturb your fellow delegates or any of the speakers on stage. If you do have to take a phone call, please do step outside. Now, I've asked you to keep your phone on silent. I didn't ask you to turn it off because I know many of you still want to keep in touch with your family and colleagues and friends, so you'll need Wi-Fi to do that. This is the Wi-Fi access, ICC Hat Yai. Username is PDMF2020, and the password is Thailand2022. And while you have access to Wi-Fi, feel free to post about today's event on social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, if that is your cup of tea. Feel free to use any of these hashtags on the screen, PDMF 2022, Songkhla, Songkhla My City, SEP, Dasta CBT, or Amazing Thailand. This is extremely important. Please do confirm your airport transfer at the transfer desk just outside to your left. You can also scan the QR code to submit your departure flight, but it is important for you to confirm your transfer to the airport. So you can do that anytime during the day, during the coffee breaks, or at lunch. So for many of you who've been to our events before, you may be familiar with Slido. For those of you who aren't, during the panel discussions, there will be opportunities for you to submit questions to the panelists. It's very easy. You just go to www.sli.do or download the Slido app, enter the event code as shown on the screen, create a profile, and submit your questions. During the panel discussions, if the moderator has some time, they will then maybe take some questions that have been submitted by the audience. And if you haven't done it already, you can download the event app. Just download this event app, search for PATA Destination Marketing Forum. There you can see the full program, see the bios of all the speakers, and connect with the other delegates here. You can schedule appointments. The app will be available after the event, so you can still stay connected after the event is over. So I believe that is all of our housekeeping notes. And if you have any questions about today's event, about any of the things I've just said, feel free to contact the PATA staff just outside in the lobby. And now we've come to our official opening remarks. So, as they prepare the stage, I do want to just keep you informed, if you haven't seen it already, the various exhibition booths outside. There's many local handicrafts. You can see textiles, pottery, beads. Please do take the time to go visit the booths. Really, I saw some fantastic pottery out there. I know one of our speakers is interested in that, so she should definitely go out and check out the pottery. We also have various booths from TCEP and from DASTA, as well as our membership booth. If you have any questions, if you're not a member and you want to find out more about being a member and our benefits, our staff is ready to answer any questions you may have. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our volunteers who's been with us over the past few days from the local university at Prince of Songkla. So thank you so much for all volunteers who've been with us over the past few days. The stage is set, as I see. And without further ado, just our first opening speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, PATA Chair, Mr. Peter Simone.
His Excellency, Minister of Tourism and Sport, Pipat Racha Kit Prakan, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored and pleased and thrilled to be here because actually I almost didn't make it because I had a starring role in part 2 of the Terminal movie. And I'll tell you the little story, and I'll tell you how it resulted in me coming up with a couple of things that I wanted to say to you this morning. So I flew from California a long time ago. I left on Monday morning, California time, and I made it to Vancouver, and then I made it to Tokyo, and then I got on the flight in Tokyo, and I started to fly to Bangkok, and halfway to Bangkok, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I looked at the little terminal, the little plane monitor, and the distance between Bangkok and our airplane seemed to be getting further rather than closer. So I thought maybe something's wrong. And then I asked the lady next to me, and she said, oh, well, the airplane actually turned around. We'd gone back to Tokyo. I said, too bad, yeah, because after 20 hours on the airplane, the last thing you want to do is have an extra hour or 2 on an airplane. So we arrived in Tokyo, and they have a state of emergency in Tokyo right now in Japan. So they had, on Monday and Tuesday, they had 220,000 new cases of COVID. So any non-Japanese was not allowed to go into Japan, where you usually would, the airline would put you in a hotel. So they gave us a sleeping bag and told us to sleep in the terminal until the next morning. And they gave us 10,000 yen, which was kind, but there was nowhere to spend the 10,000 yen. So as I was sitting there, experiencing the terminal, but only for one night, not for 3 months. By the way, I hope all of you know the reference to the terminal. It was a Tom Hanks movie back in 2006. So I sat there and I thought, okay, well, at some point, if I make it to this conference, what am I going to talk about? And I think I came up with 4 R's because I think there's four things that we need to think about. as we move ahead with tourism. So the first one is recovery. We definitely need to recover from COVID, but I think it's going to prove, like my experience in Tokyo, it's going to prove to be very difficult. And there's going to be lots of obstacles. And I want to congratulate the host committee today for such an excellent job of running an event and being as cautious as possible about COVID. I think the other thing that I want to mention to you is resilience. This is not the first, and this is not the last crisis that we're going to have. I've lived in Southeast Asia for a long time, and I remember SARS the first time. I remember the tsunami. I remember various bombs like the one in Bali. And there are all kinds of different crises that happen, and there will be more crises. And the one that I really want to mention today is I want to talk about the crisis that sometimes we tend to forget about, which is the crisis of humanity and the crisis of our planet. We have a very sick planet, unfortunately, and we need to really do something about it. And I think events like this remind us of the importance of thinking about how we're going to deal with tourism going forward. My son just graduated from the Green School in Bali, and it's supposed to be the most sustainable school on the planet. And the founder of this school gave each of the graduates a book by Paul Hawkins called Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation. And in the beginning of the book, it says, we are living on a dying planet, and we're ignoring it. And that is really of great concern. And I think it's something that we at PATA want to address, and I think it's something that all destinations, be it Songkla, be it Thailand, be it Southeast Asia, be it Greater Asia, be it the Pacific, really need to think seriously about. And some of the quotes from the book are, for example, putting life at the center of every action and decision. To stop stealing the future and start healing the future. We need to stop being right in a way that makes others wrong, and listen intently and respectfully to stitch together the broken strands that separate us from life and one another. And I think it's really, really important that we stop ignoring this crisis, because it's about sustainable tourism. It's about where we are as mankind, and I think we're at a tipping point right now. A tipping point is a highly sensitive moment in which you have critical decisions that you have to make. And I cannot emphasize as a tourism expert how vulnerable our industry is to the reality of climate change, to the reality of the crises that are going to come ahead of us. So COVID was a great experience for us. COVID has taught us discipline. It's taught us how to work together, but we need to continue in that spirit. COVID will never be over. It will come in different forms, and one of them might be one that is life-threatening for mankind. The other thing that I thought about, and I know that I have a limited moment here, is that I think that we need to recalibrate our metrics on tourism. And I read an article the other day about Venice. And Venice, they are going to charge an entrance fee for every single person that goes into the city of Venice. If you stay in a hotel in Venice, you can go for free, but otherwise it's an entrance fee. And my question is, how are we as an industry and the public sector and the private sector going to work together to recognize the real cost of tourism? At what point is there a privilege of being a tourist, and at what point do we have to start to really understand what those costs are? So again, as I was sitting in the airport thinking whether or not I'd make it, recovery, resilience, recalibration, and regeneration are really key things that I think we should talk about today and as we go forward for this industry. I'd like to finish by making sure that I thank the many, many people that have supported this event. and organizations. The Thailand Convention Exhibition Bureau, TCEP, thank you so very much. The Tourism Authority of Thailand, TAT, always active and doing great things for this country in terms of promoting and managing tourism. The Songkhla Convention and Exhibition Bureau, my first time to Songkhla. I'm so happy to be here. I hope it will be one of many visits to come here. The Designated Area for Sustainable Tourism Administration, DASTA, which is doing a really great job of dispersion of tourism across the country. The Prince of Songkhla University and Songkhla City for your gracious hospitality and generous support of this event. I would also like to thank our various sponsors who will be recognized throughout the day. And of course, I'd like to thank all of you for attending. And I hope that it is a fruitful event that has a lot of really interesting input, information, and I look forward personally to interacting with all of you and exchanging ideas about how we can really pave a way forward for tourism in the Asia-Pacific region. Thank you so very much, and I do hope that you enjoy the day. Khop khun kap.
Thank you very much, Peter. Now, we are very honored to have with us, overseeing today's events, the opening ceremony, the Minister of Tourism and Sports of the Kingdom of Thailand. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage His Excellency Kun Pipat Rachakrit Prakan for his opening speech.
ครับก็ขอกราบสวัสดีนะครับตัวผมเองก็มีความยินดีและเป็นเกียรติอย่างยิ่งที่ได้ต้อนรับทุกท่านเข้าสู่งาน Pata Destination Marketing Forum 2022 ในวันนี้นะครับงานนี้จัดขึ้นในระหว่างวันที่2ถึง4สิงหาคม 2565 ภายใต้แนวคิดฟื้นฟูการท่องเที่ยวทางวัฒนธรรมและการท่องเที่ยววิถีชุมชนการจัดงานในครั้งนี้ได้ถูกออกแบบไว้อย่างน่าสนใจในหลากหลายประเด็นอันจะทำให้ผู้เข้าร่วมงานทุกท่านได้มีโอกาสเข้าถึงข้อมูลข่าวสารที่เป็นปัจจุบันทันเหตุการณ์โดยมีผู้เชี่ยวชาญระดับประเทศระดับโลกเข้าร่วมเป็นจำนวนมากเพื่อแลกเปลี่ยนเรียนรู้ความคิดประสบการณ์อันหลากหลายผ่านการอภิปรายในด้านการจัดการท่องเที่ยวอย่างยั่งยืนอีกทั้งงานนี้ได้บรรจุกิจกรรมท่องเที่ยวที่มุ่งเน้นการเปิดโอกาสให้ทุกท่านได้รู้จักกันผ่านการทำกิจกรรมร่วมกันเพื่อเสริมสร้างประสบการณ์ในเส้นทางมรดกทางวัฒนธรรมอีกด้วยกับผมหวังเป็นอย่างยิ่งว่าทุกท่านคงได้รับความรู้ความเพลิดเพลินและสนุกสนานไปกับการสัมผัสวิถีชีวิตชุมชนในจังหวัดสงขลาและจะได้นำความรู้นี้ไปใช้ประโยชน์ในโอกาสต่อไปสุดท้ายนี้กับผมขออวยพรให้การจัดงานในครั้งนี้ประสบความสำเร็จตามจุดมุ่งหมายที่ตั้งไว้พร้อมทั้งขอชื่นชมและขอขอบคุณคณะผู้จัดงานทุกภาคส่วนที่เกี่ยวข้องสำหรับความตั้งใจอย่างแรงกล้าในการจัดงานในครั้งนี้ให้ประสบความสำเร็จและขอขอบคุณอาสาสมัครโดยเฉพาะนักศึกษาที่ได้ทำงานนี้อย่างมุ่งมั่นตั้งใจตลอดช่วงสัปดาห์ที่ผ่านมาก็ผมหวังเป็นอย่างยิ่งว่าทุกท่านจะได้รับความประทับใจไม่รู้ลืมกับประสบการณ์ที่ได้รับจากจังหวัดสงขลาแห่งนี้และกลับมาเยี่ยมเยียนพวกเราชาวสงขลาอีกครั้งหนึ่งครับขอบคุณครับ
Thank you very much, Minister, for your words this morning. Next up, to deliver his opening remarks, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Governor of Songkhla Province of Thailand. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Kun Jetsira Chitra.
เรียนท่านรัฐมนตรีว่าการกระทรวงการท่องเที่ยวและกีฬาท่านประธานเจ้าหน้าที่บริหารและประธานกรรมการสมาคมส่งเสริมการท่องเที่ยวภูมิภาคเอเชียแปซิฟิกรองผู้อำนวยการสำนักงานส่งเสริมการจัดประชุมและนิทรรศการผู้อำนวยการองค์การบริหารการพัฒนาพื้นที่พิเศษเพื่อการท่องเที่ยวอย่างยั่งยืนท่านอธิการบดีมหาวิทยาลัยสงขลานครินทร์ท่านส่วนราชการนักธุรกิจสื่อมวลชนท่านผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านครับวันนี้กับผมรู้สึกเป็นเกียรติอย่างยิ่งที่ได้ต้อนรับทุกท่านเข้าสู่งานการประชุมพาต้า Destination Marketing Forum 2022 และงานการประชุมสัมมนาทางด้านการส่งเสริมการตลาดท่องเที่ยวในภูมิภาคเอเชียแปซิฟิกประจำปี 2565 สำหรับการจัดงานในครั้งนี้มีเป้าหมายเพื่อเป็นเวทีในการแลกเปลี่ยนประสบการณ์และองค์ความรู้ในการฟื้นฟูการท่องเที่ยวในภูมิภาคเอเชียและแปซิฟิกอย่างจริงจังและเป็นรูปธรรมโดยในงานจะเน้นหารือเรื่องของการตลาดจุดหมายปลายทางของการท่องเที่ยวและการบริหารจัดการเพื่อฟื้นฟูเมืองด้วยการท่องเที่ยวและการจัดการอีเวนต์ภายหลังการแพร่ระบาดของโควิด -19 เพื่อสร้างรายได้การท่องเที่ยวที่ยั่งยืนในภูมิภาคนี้ในนามของผู้ว่าราชการจังหวัดสงขลาและพี่น้องประชาชนชาวจังหวัดสงขลาซึ่งเป็นผู้ดูแลภาพรวมของการท่องเที่ยวทั้งหมดของสงขลาได้เล็งเห็นว่าตั้งแต่มีการแพร่ระบาดของโควิด -19 ในช่วง 2-3 ปีที่ผ่านมาธุรกิจภาคการท่องเที่ยวและไม้ซึ่งถือเป็นธุรกิจที่สำคัญได้รับผลกระทบมากที่สุดด้วยจำนวนนักเดินทางที่ลดลงอย่างฉับพลันส่งผลให้ธุรกิจจำนวนมากได้ปิดกิจการไปรายได้จากกิจการการท่องเที่ยวและไม้หายไปการเลิกจ้างงานของธุรกิจในห่วงโซ่โอทานเพิ่มมากขึ้นซึ่งถือเป็นปัญหาหลักที่ต้องได้รับการช่วยเหลือและให้ความสนใจอย่างจริงจังเพื่อให้เศรษฐกิจพลิกฟื้นกลับมามั่นคงอีกครั้งดังนั้นการประชุมในครั้งนี้จึงถือเป็นส่วนสำคัญในการขับเคลื่อนเศรษฐกิจภาคการท่องเที่ยวและไม่เฉพาะในจังหวัดสงขลาเท่านั้นแต่ครอบคลุมถึงภูมิภาคเอเชียแปซิฟิกให้ก้าวต่อไปอย่างมั่นคงอีกทั้งการจัดงานประชุมในครั้งนี้ยังเป็นการส่งเสริมจุดหมายปลายทางในการจัดงานไม้ที่สำคัญซึ่งเป็นจุดเริ่มต้นในการประชาสัมพันธ์แหล่งท่องเที่ยวที่เป็นเอกลักษณ์ความพร้อมของเมืองในการจัดงานและสถานที่จัดงานที่มีมาตรฐานในการรองรับการจัดงานระดับนานาชาติต่อไปให้เป็นที่รู้จักจากทั่วมุมโลกสุดท้ายนี้ต้องกราบขอบคุณทุกท่านที่ได้มาร่วมงานและเลือกจังหวัดสงขลาหนึ่งในเมืองไม้ซิตี้ชั้นนำของประเทศที่มีศักยภาพในการรองรับการจัดการไม้ระดับนานาชาติเป็นจุดหมายปลายทางในการจัดการประชุม PATA Destination Marketing Forum 2022 ในครั้งนี้ผมหวังเป็นอย่างยิ่งว่าการจัดประชุมครั้งนี้จะนำไปสู่การพลิกฟื้นเศรษฐกิจภาคการท่องเที่ยวอย่างแท้จริงขอขอบพระคุณและกราบสวัสดีทุกท่านครับสวัสดีครับ
ขอบคุณครับ and thank you very much คุณเจษฎา and moving right along for our next welcome remarks ladies and gentlemen please welcome to the stage the Senior Vice President for MICE Capability and Innovation at the Thailand Convention Exhibition Bureau big round of applause for คุณสุปวรรณธีรรัตน์
His Excellency Pipat Rachakit Prakan, Minister of Tourism and Sport, Mr. Jesada Chitrat, Governor of Songkhla Province, Mr. Peter Simon, Chair of PARA, Group Captain Atikun Kongmi, Director General from DASTA, and Liz, the CEO of PARA, and also distinguished guests, colleagues, media, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Thailand Convention and Exhibition Bureau, a public organization, we are the government agency working under supervision of the Prime Minister Office and dedicated for the business event or what's so-called MICE industry in Thailand. It's a great pleasure for me to speak at this great gathering. First of all, allow me to give you all a warm welcome once again, in particular those from afar. Thank you for joining PDMF 2022 in Songkhla, one of the most economically city with their culturally rich of charm in the southern part of Thailand. And also, Songkhla is our my city potential. Actually, my first PDMF experiences was in Palau. It's a super beautiful island in the Micronesia region. And as a government bidder agency, I knew that I would definitely bring this great event to Thailand, not only because the forum gives the insightful of tourism, marketing, destination trends, tips for sustainable growth in the industry, and of course the networking opportunities, but also the one-day destination experiences also reveal the unprecedented opportunities for all delegates to explore unseen local treasure of cultures and soft power the destination can provide. And of course, local communities will economically benefit through the dispersion of tourists to these new frontiers. Since then, we have been hosted a country of PDMF in Khon Kaen, the northeastern part of Thailand, Pattaya, the core city in the eastern part, and here we are in Songkhla city, which is one of the MICE city appointed by TISEP. We are confident that Songkhla is a perfect place to host the city under the theme Building Back Sustainably through Cultural Heritage and Community-Based Tourism. Songkhla is well equipped with infrastructure, various beautiful and historical locations, especially with the sincerities and openness of the people, and are ready to welcome all participants. With a commitment for sustainability as PARA partners, TISEP has strived towards responsibilities, ethics, and sustainability in MICE industry development in Asia-Pacific region, and we are very proud and delighted to co-organize this event also, because this event serves as a driving force for international tourism and MICE event in Thailand, and this event will contribute remarkably to raise the awareness of Songkhla as international MICE destination. Lastly, I wish to thank all supporting organizations who help making this PDMF 2022 a memorable and a better one, and sincerely hope that you all will be impressed with our local charm and Thainess. And I hope you are not just being as a delegate at the forum, but also as a tourist and enjoy your stay in Songkhla and other cities. After all, we are here for tourism, right? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kun Supawan, and also thank you for being such a strong supporter of PARA and our mission for responsible development of travel and tourism within the region. For our next welcome remarks, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Director General of DASTA. Big round of applause for Group Captain Atikun Kongmi.
distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the designated areas for Sustainable Tourism Administration, ADASTA, I'm honored to welcome all delegates to the PATA Destination Marketing Forum 2022 in Songkhla Province, a beautiful Indian gem in the southern part of Thailand. As an organization under the supervision of the Minister of Tourism and Sports, DASTA plays a crucial role in the coordinating, promoting, and supporting all related partners and stakeholders to develop sustainable tourism while ensuring that income from tourism would be distributed to all stakeholders, ensuring that income from tourism would be distributed to all stakeholders and contributed to the quality of life and well-being of our community. In this occasion, DASTA has joined as one of the co-hosts for PATA Destination Marketing Forum 2022, our PDMF 2022. In order to generate awareness about the community-based tourism in the areas of Songkhla Lake Basin, which is one of the upcoming designated areas of sustainable tourism to be officially announced and developed in the near future. Truly believing that community-based tourism will be the key factor for tourism recovery after the pandemic crisis. DASTA has hosted 3 technical tours providing 3 different experiences for our delegates in 3 local communities of Songkhla Province. Firstly, Songkhla Lake's local charms. Look at Tahin community, where delegates can experience Nora lifestyle of the community's folklore and ecotourism. Secondly, nature meets culture. Look at your community, where you can explore the culture of southern region, the authentic temples and villages unattached in the old times. And lastly, Heritage Singular. Look at Wakao community, where you can enjoy the view of Songkhla Lagoon and venture around the old town that boasts a collection of UNESCO Heritage Site candidates. And today, we have brought local communities to the event for you all to get to know more about Songkhla Province and its unique story through the exhibition from Krongdan community and Songkhla Old Town, organized by Thailand Science Research and Innovation, or TSDI. Lastly, I would like to express my sincere thanks to PATA Songkhla Province, TSF, TAT, PSU, and all related partners for organizing the remarkable PDMF 2022. Most importantly, I hope you all have a great time participating in the event and bring back home knowledge and our memorable experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Group Captain. And thank you very much to DASTA for organizing the 3 destination experiences yesterday. The feedback we've heard has been fantastic. Now, to provide an introduction to PDMF, last and certainly not least, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage PATA CEO, Ms. Liz Ortiguera.
Sawadika, good morning. Your Excellency, Pipat Rachakit Prakarn, honorable hosts and distinguished guests. It's our honor to be hosted by you today in this beautiful, charming province. We're thrilled to be hosting with you our first fully physical event in 2.5 years. Last week, I'm happy to update, we hit maximum capacity with this gathering with over 330 attendees today, 22 nations represented, and 11 NTOs present. And I have to add that yesterday, after experiencing Old Town Songkhla and hearing about the two other experiences, this destination is really an undiscovered gem for tourism and MICE. And this convention center, the largest in southern Thailand, is a beautiful venue for our event. I started in this role a bit more than 1 year ago, and I was a newcomer to the PATA Association. I've had a fast education about the history and thought about the strengths, both the current and the potential of this fantastic network and how it can support you all in this recovery. First, the first strength I'll highlight, the depth and breadth of the network of PATA. I spent 18 years at a little company called American Express, but I was still impressed with the depth and breadth of the travel players represented within the PATA network. Startups to MNCs, universities to development banks, technology to retail, all are represented within the network. Travel and tourism is not just an industry, but it's a mega sector that encompasses many, many industries. And within PATA, every corner of the travel ecosystem is represented within the network and can be reached. Our network is boundless, and with the recovery and my outreach to new members and partners, it's expanding and growing every day. With the re-welcome of STB back into our network, we now have 9 of the 10 ASEAN nations with us. We have over 70 universities with PATA globally, thousands of youths in our youth chapters. The students are key to recovery in our industry. Most cities that I've visited in the past year have a PATA chapter or international members. San Diego, New York, Norway, London, Hawaii, and of course, many destinations across Asia Pacific. I know we have a big delegation today from both the Nepal and Malaysian chapters. Thank you for coming out in full force, and welcome. I'd like to congratulate both the Thailand and Nepal chapters for the great spirit of cooperation and collaboration that I saw at the sales event they hosted in Bangkok on Monday. Make this network work for you. Engage with the PATA network by sharing some of your expertise. Now is the time to engage in new and different ways with partners and colleagues. Offer your knowledge and support to others, and it will come back to you with returns. The geographic breadth of Asia is extensive. In October, our valued member destination, Ras Al Khaimah, will be hosting our PATA Annual Summit. Located just outside Dubai, this is a global crossroads. For all of the NTOs wanting to market and restore long haul, please join us there as well to connect with your colleagues in West Asia, North America, Europe, and of course, Asia Pacific. If you want new business, you need to proactively reach out to each other in new and different ways, the way our colleagues here from Nepal reached out and hosted an event in Bangkok. PATA's second strength, global issues, local relevancy. PATA goes grassroots in impact. One thing I love about representing PATA is that we don't just make grand announcements on stage about goals that we hope the world will hit in 20 years. We have the network to make on-the-ground tangible progress and impact. This year, we piloted an informal workers project in Bangkok, supporting over 500 of the lowest income, highest impacted tourism workers, vendors, drivers, hostel workers. These are the people that are the backbone of our industry. We reached out by partnering with a humanitarian organization to deliver health and safety training and digital marketing skills to these workers. We've wanted to expand this program because it's really needed across the whole region. So I'm happy to announce that I'm finalizing discussions with Visa to expand this into a second phase. Visiting here in Songkhla reminded me of an important project that Pata did for a little unknown destination in the late 1960s. I read about this in a history book about Pata's work between 1951 and 1995. At the time, Bangkok was starting to get over-touristed. So the Tourism Organization of Thailand, TOT, requested Pata to help increase tourism to Thailand. Between 1969 and 1975, Pata worked on various plans to support the little-known destination. We assembled an expert team to look at infrastructure, waste disposal, transport connectivity, and marketing. That little-known destination is Chiang Mai. So you can see this is one example of how Pata has been critical to the development of travel and tourism since really its birth in the 1950s. Similar work is needed today in many destinations across the region, and we're happy to be contributing to the regional and global appreciation of Songkhla as a great destination for MICE and leisure travel. As a current grassroots project, Pata also launched earlier this year the Tourism Destination Resilience Training Program, or TDR. TDR is a destination management training program built with the input of 20 experts over 6 months with the support of GIZ. It was piloted in 4 Pata destinations earlier this year, and we're offering this online program for free to NTOs at a country, provincial, and a city level across this destination, and I've extended it to my good colleague, Secretary General Zurab's network as well with UNWTO. This program will help you identify resiliencies that you need to address and build capacity in order to welcome more visitors and better preserve your destination. The third and final strength that I'll mention of Patas is community. This is one element that differentiates us from other industry associations. Treat people with respect, offer your knowledge and support, and good colleagues will want to collaborate with you. Clients will seek out your skills and expertise. Now is the time to reach out, support each other, and collaborate rather than compete. This industry recovery is too complex for us to navigate alone. The strength of the community around you will open up opportunities. Community is really at the heart of what we do. So, coming into a Pata conference is a place to build strong, game-changing, and long-running partnerships. My thanks for joining us in this community today, and enjoy the conference. We're honored to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for your opening remarks, and thank you to all of our speakers this morning for their welcome remarks. And as we prepare the stage for our official opening of the event, I'd like to once again thank our hosts for helping us organize this fantastic event. So thank you once again to TCEP, TAT, DASTA, SCEP, Prince of Songkhla University, and as well as Songkhla City. The feedback so far over the event has been fantastic. The feedback on the tours as well. People really enjoyed the various activities, saw some great photos, and there's still time to enter the social media contest. We will be giving out 5 prizes at the end of the conference. So if you haven't posted any photos yet, feel free to continue posting on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, regarding some of the activities you did yesterday. Please ensure that your account is public so we can find the actual posts. And as we're finishing up the stage, are we almost ready? Or they'll signal me? As we're just finishing up the stage, the 5 prizes are actually local handicrafts here from Songkhla, so please do continue posting. By lunchtime, we will start the judging process, so you do have from now until then. And without further ado, let's begin the official opening of the PARA Destination Marketing Forum. And with that, please welcome back to the stage the Minister of Tourism and Sports of the Kingdom of Thailand, His Excellency Kun Pipat Ratchakrit Prakan, PARA Chair Peter Simone, PARA CEO Ms. Liz Ortiguera, Governor of Songkhla Province Kun Jetira Chitrat, Vice Governor of Songkhla Kun Ampon Pongsuwan, Senior Vice President of MICE Capability and Innovation Kun Supawan Tirarat, Director General of DASTA Group Captain Atikun Kongmi, and President of Prince of Songkhla University Assistant Professor Dr. Niwat Kyo Praduk. So ladies and gentlemen on stage, on the count of 5, you will push the button. So when we're ready, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, push the button. The PARA Destination Marketing Forum is officially began. So please hold for a group photo. And now I would also like to invite to the stage the Deputy Mayor of Hat Yai City, Kun Jetsapong Chukkiao. Kun, please join the stage, as well as Kun Sisura Wanapinyosik to join the stage as well. Also from Songkhla Provincial Administration Organization, Kun Nipat. From Songkhla Municipal Clerk, Mr. Niwat Suksiri, the Manager of Public Affairs Section, Petroleum Development and Support-Based Department of PTT Exploration and Production, Kun Sarantip Srung Tong Gon, and the Executive Vice President of Event and Facility Management for NCC Management and Development, the Management of ICC Hat Yai, Kun Prempong Sai Sang Chan. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our host and supporters for this event as we officially open the PARA Destination Marketing Forum 2022. Please hold on stage for a group photo as we have the last representative on stage. So our final group photo. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You may now leave the stage. Thank you so much, and thank you all of you for being part of our opening ceremony. But we're not finished yet. Now, for our opening ceremony, our hosts have prepared something very special for you this morning. This morning, we will have the opportunity to experience Nora, the dance drama of southern Thailand. So, what is Nora, you may ask? Inscribed in 2021 on the representative list of the Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity of UNESCO, Nora is a lively acrobatic form of dance theater and improvisational singing from southern Thailand. Performances normally include a long oral invocation, followed by a presentation by a lead character who dances with vigorous and elaborate movements of the legs, arms, and fingers. The performances are usually based on stories about the former lives of Buddha or about legendary heroes. The main Nora performers, whether male or female, wear colorful costumes with long metallic fingernails that curl out the fingertips. So once they clear the stage, please sit back, relax, and enjoy Nora, Dance Drama of Southern Thailand. And as they set up the stage for the next session, do want to remind you, if you are coming in a bit late, it's really important to know if you have not confirmed your departure transfer to the airport, please so do that at the transfer desk located outside in the lobby out to your left. Also, during the coffee break, please take the opportunity to visit all the booths out there that are showcasing the various local handicrafts from Songkhla. We have textiles, beads, pottery. There's actually a nice coffee shop out there, some signature drinks made using some local ingredients. Also, feel free to visit the various booths from Dasta, TSEP, as well as PATA. Liz this morning had explained why, if you're not a member, why you should join PATA. So please do go talk to some of our staff members, find out more, and find out what our benefits are. So later, after that, we'll have our 2 keynote speeches, and then before the coffee break, we'll have then a session on the changing of mice. Now, if you have any questions about today's program, feel free to contact the PATA staff. And as I said, if you're coming late, if you haven't downloaded the event app, feel free to download it at Cvent. Just search for the Cvent app and look for the PATA Destination Marketing Forum 2022. The app will be available after the event, so you can still stay connected with your fellow delegates, keep in touch, see what they're doing, and you can schedule appointments with them. If you happen to be in the same city, why not? As we're making the final preparations for the Nora Dance Drama of Southern Thailand. All right. So the stage is all set. Sit back, relax, and enjoy Nora Dance Drama of Southern Thailand.
That's impressive. Going up for yoga.
A big round of applause for our performers. Those are our musicians. Fantastic show. Thank you so much, Kapun Ka. Really remarkable. I think for even some of our staff that were saying this is even their first time seeing that cultural performance. Really fantastic. Thank you so much. And now we've come to our first keynote of the conference, the best practices for destination marketing. As we all know, destination marketing has changed since the pandemic. Traveler behavior has shifted. So what does that mean for us as a destination or us as an industry stakeholder? Well, let's find out with our next presenter. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage. He is the partner of international insights at MMGY Global. He's also founder of the Sigmund Project. So if you don't know about that, feel free to look it up. Big round of applause for Mr. Alan Elliott Mershon.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. To all our dignitaries here, to all our friends and our friends-to-be, all protocols observed. It's an honor to be here. So we're going to jump right into this, otherwise I risk sounding like the fast-talking American. So the first thing I'll do is tell you what we're not going to do today. I won't give you every marketing answer. I won't tell you when all the visitors are coming back, and I'm not going to make you the ultimate marketing guru at the end of the time. What we will do is share some important and very, very fresh research, offer some marketing insights and examples to you, and hopefully challenge your creativity when you walk out of what you can do in your specific markets. Now, by way of background, I'm with one of the partners at MMGY Global, which is the leading integrated travel marketing company dedicated 100% to travel, tourism, and hospitality. We're actually a collection of 7 different companies around the world that all work to synthesize our activities. Collectively, we're over 40 years of experience from when MMGY originally started. We have over 400 people around the world in 12 international offices. And this is a sampling of our close to 500 clients that we have in those various markets. Some of the information I'll give with you today is based on our proprietary research. We've been doing a portrait of American traveler for over 30 years. We just introduced a portrait of an international American traveler, and we have safety travel barometers. So we're going to give you all that, then some examples, and hopefully get you out thinking, I've got so much to do at the end of this. So it's always good to start a little positive, and we're looking forward, so we're going to give you a little bit of positive research that just came out of the US. And this, literally, the study was conducted and finished 2 weeks ago. So you have this rare opportunity of farm-to-table research. It's that fresh. One of the best stats that we like is the idea of how safe I feel when I travel. If we look back a year ago, domestic travel in the US was down to like 30%. People were not very comfortable. Now we're at 3 out of 4 people saying they're comfortable in traveling domestically. Internationally, we were at 20%, and now over half of the Americans feel that it's safe to travel internationally. That's quite encouraging from our perspective. Now, what's the likelihood of them taking an international trip? Well, during the worst of times, it dipped down to 16%, and now it's back up to 21%. Now, you might say, well, 21%, is that really that good? Even pre-pandemic, it was only at 24%. But to keep things in perspective, at 21% of our 320 million Americans, we're talking over 70 million people. That's literally bigger than the population of all of Korea, who are interested in taking a trip in the next 6 months. So as much as it doesn't seem like a big percentage, it's an important percentage and an important number. One of these stats I've never seen in our research before, that 3 out of 4 people are interested in visiting Asia and the Pacific in the next 3 years. Now, of course, there's a big gap between interest and actually conversion, but when we're getting 3 out of 4, these numbers are good. What's even more striking is these numbers are stronger than our South American and Mexican numbers. And as you know, our population of South American and Mexicans are very high, much higher, about 28%, compared to only 6% population base of Asia. So you can see this is a great, great stat, very encouraging from us. The other part is where we might not take as many trips, we're willing to spend more money per trip. And this fits very well into long-haul travel, especially in a destination like Asia. And of course, as a lot of tourist offices are realizing now, let's not talk about arrivals anymore. Let's talk about revenue, how much money was spent and how much money was kept in the destination. Very important. So with that as a background, let's jump into some of the top trends. One of the trends with DMOs is to build your own model. We're not going to go into examples of this because it's so selective for each one. But nowadays, with everything available, you can build a model. It just has to have certain attributes to it. Attribution, prospecting, social, retargeting. All these things that can revolve around the customer and what the customer is doing in their track. And why is this so important? Because it's not like it used to be where we had a set distribution channel. It's changed and we have to keep up with that. The timings of when people travel, how things are going. For example, in the UK, to book hotels, it's about a 6-day process, and they're booking only about 50 days in advance. For the flights, they're looking at the individual flights. This is after they've picked the destination for about almost 3 weeks, and they're booking the flights about 90 days out. Traditionally, we book the flights, and then we book the hotels. Sometimes, sadly, we don't even look at the price of the hotels before we rule out a flight or a destination. So these are the types of things we need to look at. Now, when we look at the marketing, it's important to step back a little bit. First, the consumer has an idea and an inspiration of where they want to go. Keep this in mind. Nobody does a search on travel. They've already got in mind, I want to go to Thailand, I want to go to South Africa, I want to go to Machu Picchu. That is a so important part at that top of the funnel to influence the people there. You can't wait until they go online. So many tourist boards say, oh, we get so much from Google. Well, actually, all your other marketing has worked before they got to Google and started the search on your destination. You know, we have an old saying in the advertising business, I know half my advertising's working, I just don't know which half. And so it's important to still be out there. Next, they start to compare prices and features. That's when they get to the OTAs, to the Expedias, those types of things. But remember, you've got to pull them in before they start looking at your destination and the pricing for that. And then the booking process starts going back to that original idea that I showed you, how long it takes from the booking. Don't fall into that, well, they don't book till this, they only do 90 days out, that's when I want to reach them. You've got to start way, way back to do that. The other big change is it's not linear. It's not, I'm going to look at a site, I'm going to go down, I'm going to go to the destination, I'm going to go to the flights, I'm going to go to the hotels. It's all over the place. It's very phonetic. As a matter of fact, what happens is you don't even stay online. Then you start reading reviews. Then you go to Facebook and you see if anybody's done it. Then you go and you read an article. Then you leave and then you come back. And then you do this and then you do that. So the problem is, the challenge is you've got to hit all those things at the same time. At least for the US, there's 38 site visits before they get to the booking process. That's 50 online searches, sometimes to the same website. We miraculously think the price is going to change when I look 3 days later than what it was 2 days ago because we want it to. The funny part is you see all these things, the reviews that are read, the weeks of research that are done, compared to having a surgery. The average person only looks at 3 websites before they have their surgery and 50 when they go to travel because one's fun and they want to do it. So it's something to consider. Now let's look down at a little bit more of some of the trends that are happening. One of the biggest things is some of the B2B tools that were created, especially during the pandemic, have become B2C marketing platforms. In particular, Zoom. Now you might think Zoom was B2B, but no longer. How many of you have used Zoom to see friends, to talk to people? Now think about the distribution systems. And one of the best examples is a company called Uniworld that does cruises all over the world, river cruises. They worked with their travel advisors to get consumers to come to webinars online. They would never do it in person because they wouldn't want to be with the other travel advisors. Last year alone, they reached 100,000 consumers through webinars that were set up to bring their consumers in through their travel advisor network. The interesting thing is they were all seniors for the most part. So this idea of the senior surfing and the 70 and 80-year-olds not getting in touch, no, they were all online. How did we know they were online? They enjoyed the webinar so much, they requested a magazine, a print magazine, to be mailed to them. So it is this, don't forget what's worked in the past, how do we integrate it into the future? The other part is flexibility is another trend. We know we need it. Just listening to Peter's story, we know we need to be flexible. Now, what's happening on that is that you can use that as a selling tool. People are afraid, what's going to happen if my flight changes? Do I get my money back, et cetera, et cetera? So what have companies done? They've decided this could be a revenue stream. Here's an example of Delta. I can buy my Delta ticket for $200, but if I want that security that I can cancel for full value, I'm paying 25% more for that luxury. Multiply that times the Delta schedule and you see some serious income, but you see a comfort level for the consumer to be able to travel. Even the tour operators are getting into this. You book it, you pay a little more dollars, and you know you're going to be set and you don't need to do it, but they're looking at it also as a revenue stream too. So it could be your friend. One of the biggest things, and I think it's so prevalent for the Asian market, is the amount of collaboration. We've all seen it during COVID. Destinations are more willing to talk to their neighbors, their partners, and say, how do we work together? We can't do this on our own anymore. So one of the projects we did was with the European Travel Commission. And just look at, we can't even do this politically, but we can do it in travel and tourism. We had 15 European markets and 45 campaign partners working on one campaign. Through that campaign, we were at 185 million impressions. We were able to get over 160,000 hotel bookings. So these are the Europeans who can't agree on anything politically, but when it comes to travel and tourism, they knew they had to work together to reach an 80 million base of people that they wanted to, and they used, you could see, lightbox content, websites, social audits, retargeting ads, the whole mix, as I mentioned before, which is so mandatory. And this was a campaign called Open Up to Europe, and you can see we didn't just get tourist boards, trade associations, hotel partners, airlines, OTAs, regional, national tourist boards, all working together on one campaign because we need to push it out. Now, admittedly, for the US market, as many of you know, Americans are geographically challenged, and so we need to educate them at the same time. It applies to Asia too. But here's a few other destinations that have worked together. Italy and San Marino as a cooperative campaign. This one's one of my favorites. It's Ireland and Northern Ireland working together, putting funding together. So even though politically they can't, practically they can. Even interesting ones like Serbia and Montenegro, who say, once again, most clients travel throughout both. Let's work together and spread it. And the Australian states even working together on an international campaign, where domestically they do it on their own. Internationally, we see here Victoria, Northern Territory, and South Australia all working together on a campaign. And admittedly, I'm from California, so we wanted to talk to the tourist board, visit California, and keeping in mind that this state is a really diverse state. It's the 5th largest economy in the world with almost 50 million people. So what did they do? They didn't say, let's look at destinations and promote destinations. They said, let's look at the traveler and how the traveler travels and appeal to them that way. One epic road trip, and then it went into all the places you can go. So it was from the consumer's viewpoint, not from the destination's viewpoint. This is one of my favorites too. Kidfornia. All right, it's California road tripping kid style. So they went right to the kid market because that's the influence on the parent, and put the campaign together. They did a series of these tasty trips, all about food, eclectic adventures. All these things were said, what's the consumer thinking? Then we'll build behind it, and all the partners and the collaborative work together. Another big trend is bleisure is back. Now, how we define bleisure might change. It might be blended. It might be nomadic life. But the reality is it's business and work. And destinations are looking and saying, how do we hit this person because they're a high-value, long-term, dispersed around the destination client. Exactly what we want. We don't have enough seats. We need to hold on to them longer and make sure they spend a lot of money. Once again, going to Australia, the outback of Australia is saying, come and work here, because they're in that situation, they need employees. So we'll do a deal with you if you come here and work here that your vacation's virtually paid for. Portugal has been very aggressive in putting out visas specifically for nomads, nomad visas, saying come here, stay as long as you want, forget about the 90 days, and work from here. It's affordable, and we're going to help you do it, no matter where you work. And this is one of my favorites to get people. Adelaide offers a 10-pound flight if you can just come down here and work, because they need employees so much. So that's an idea of where the government's getting involved and then letting the private sector take over. Once again, because we have all these platforms, you have to adapt your message. Now you can see this is kind of an intricate deal, but where it goes from Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok, and the different markets that are going there, and the Gen Z and the millennial market of how they're doing it. It used to be we'd take one message and put it all across our platforms. We cannot do that anymore. We have to adapt the message. First, by language. Don't assume, well, if they come here, they'll speak English, so that's okay. Go to their language because it's easier for them to absorb it. And then look at the different mediums. Maybe, as Switzerland's done, is a whole array of things on TikTok that are very different than the rest of their advertising. There's a common thread through it, but we'll see it differently. South Africa does it very differently on TikTok too, and how they're doing it, but some of their ads change, and you can see on some of their other mediums, on long videos, it's a little different look than how they do on TikTok. So you have to adjust it whatever you need for those specific markets and for those specific platforms, and find experts in those areas. Even Thailand, as you can see, has adjusted their message. Once again, not talking about what we have, but what you want to experience. The islands, the culture and history, the spa. So they've taken it and says, what's the excuse for me to go to this destination? Then I'll find out what I need, and I can get everybody to collaborate. One of the trends, and once again, Peter mentioned it at the very beginning, is sustainability. Now, we've always talked about it as an industry, but what we're now finding out is consumers are talking about it, and they're making decisions. Over half of the prospects of long-haul travelers from the U.S. say they've avoided a destination because they didn't feel it was committed to sustainable ventures. That's an important stat, and these are high-end, 100,000 plus American travelers. If they don't see it, they don't go there. And the important thing is, you cannot wait for them to ask you. You have to tell them. They don't know the questions to ask, so you have to inform them, we are sustainable. Literally, 7 out of 10 say that they will look at overcrowding to influence which destinations they want to visit. So now, every time someone says, we need to go back to where we were, no, we need to go forward to where we want to be. Fewer clients spending more money works for everyone. Longer length of stay, not more arrivals, and spending more money in the destination. 1 out of 3 put an importance placed in sustainability, more so than 10 years ago. And 20% just since the pandemic said they'll buy sustainability as a thought-provoking thing that happened from COVID. So how do we do that? Germany's a prime example. They have a whole feel-good campaign, and it's about sustainability. And I love this. Find accommodations that meet sustainability requirements. Now, even if you don't know what your requirements are, you want to meet them, and you're excited about it, so you do it. And they've taken, once again, a proactive approach to do this. Another one, this is one of my favorites, is Costa Rica. It happens to be a client of ours, and it's talking about the heroes of sustainability. So it's a soft approach to say what we're doing, and it profiles people and the projects that they're in. This is a new company. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. You've all heard of Airbnb. This is Fairbnb. So they've taken a different approach to sustainability and making a mark in that. Now, I did mention Costa Rica. Here's a really complete campaign, and you can see how it's integrated, and it's all about life's essentials found here. So they've talked about sustainability without saying the word sustainable. They've talked about essentials, what's basics, what's needed, and they do this very effectively across all their information, and it gets that point across to the consumer who says, I feel good about going to this destination and I can do it. One of the other big changes is, when am I going to go to that destination? This idea of seasonality, you know who created it? We did. We said, oh, it's the rainy season. Who thought of that from a marketing point of view? It's not the rainy season, it's the green season. Okay? We said, oh, people only travel this time. No, they don't. And now with nomadic work and kids remotely doing school, we have to eliminate. We need to think outside the calendar and say, how do we move forward on what we want to do? One of the best examples that's been done for a while is in an American state, Colorado. And what did they do? Why are we shutting down the ski slopes in the summer when it's an opportune time? And you see guys going with road bikes out of Colorado to hold onto their bike, to go up the lift and come down. So they're doing as much in the summer as they are in the winter, and spreading out the revenue that they make. One of my places that I love is Cape Town. And there used to be summer and cold winter in Cape Town. Now, it's not cold if you're used to 12 feet of snow, but they thought it was cold and they called it winter. And then all of a sudden they realized, let's rename this. It's not summer and winter anymore. It's white wine season and red wine season. We do white wine outside, we do red wine in front of the fireplace. Very simple, let's market that way. 2 different ways to do it, 2 different markets. And of course, sporting and events is the perfect excuse for why I need to travel now. And a lot of destinations are putting a lot of effort into that with events, sporting events, whatever it happens to be. We're all here for this event because there's an immediacy to it, and we'll get back to that. And also, just when's the best time to travel? This is Eclipse. What a great way to get people to say, I have to go now, there's no excuse, I will do it, and I'll probably book extra time just to be on the safe side. One of the others is social marketing. And the biggest key to remember here when we see good examples is social marketing needs to be social. We cannot use the same things that we do in advertising and put it on social media and expect it to use and have the same impact that we have before. Look at these stats that really push this forward. Over half like social media pages related to trips they're planning. So once again, we're getting them at that top of the funnel before they make decisions. 3 out of 4 have learned about a travel experience from an activity on social media. And if you look at some of the smart ones, you're going to hear from Pete from Stellar later today, who've really gone out, millions of people posting their ideas and people saying, yes, that looks good. I can see it from the traveler's perspective, not the destination's perspective. And the more we can do that, the better we can get impact. Obviously, the millennials are an important part of this. Over 50% feel good about this. And keep in mind, there used to be an expression, if you're trying to target 40-year-olds, show pictures of 30-year-olds. If you're trying to target 50-year-olds, show pictures of 40-year-olds, and so on and so forth. If you're targeting 80-year-olds, I'm not sure why you're in business, but you always look younger. We all want to emulate the millennials, and so we start thinking like them. So we feel like we're younger. So we look at their actions and we start taking those actions too. As I mentioned, and I can't emphasize this enough, it's not monologue when you're on social media, it's a dialogue. It's a conversation. It's not just pushing out. The simplest way I can say this is, it's not an audience, it's a community. You don't want to build an audience in social media, you want to build a community. As a matter of fact, you want to build several communities. And they might have differences, they might have similarities, but that's what you want to build and have that conversation with them, and especially online. One of the best was when Tourism Australia a few years ago was trying to build their website and they needed content. Could they go out and get content? You're sure they could buy it. But also they realized we have a lot of content with our own Australians. So they did a campaign that said, you've got stuff, show us your neighborhood, show us what you're proud of. They were getting 1,000 photos a day from Australians to say, we want to share our country with the world. A great, simple way to have a conversation that spurred conversations and so on and so forth. And I can't help but give one more plug to a place that's near and dear to my heart that I've worked with for 20 years, which is Macau. Macau did a campaign where we created gifts, and the gifts were voted on by the consumers for them to use in their social media. So now we're creating a social media conversation, but extending that in a viral way to have everybody do the work for us by putting those gifts in their social media and expanding and leveraging it as much as we possibly can. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. We can talk forever and ever about the different ways and the different formats to do this, but you can see the effectiveness of this. I want to leave you with one more thought today. Now, I have to admit, I'm a recovering academician. I was a teacher for several years, so pardon me if this sounds like a lecture. But I always learned that we need a unique selling proposition. We need one thing that says, this is what makes us different from any other place in the country, in the world, okay? And we always questioned, why does someone want to come here? And we work so hard at saying, what is it about it? Sometimes we come up with too many answers and we need to prioritize those answers. But we come up and say, what's the one thing? Why do I want them to come here? What do we have that nobody else does? What's that one thing that we can say, this is the primary reason you need to come here? And there's some places that have done it so well, from safari to Machu Picchu to culture, and they've done a great, great job of saying, why here? Here's my challenge for you now. That's not enough anymore. Why here is a good base. Right now, it's why now. Not why do I need to come to this destination, why do I make that decision a priority that I need to come to that destination now? And that's your challenge. It's not enough to have that base, we have to go that step further. So I'm going to reframe for you. Yes, you have to have a unique selling proposition, but for the rest of the day and the rest of the week, I want you to think about what's my timely selling proposition. ESP to get international, domestic visitors to come to my place, to stay at my place, to spend money at my place with every stakeholder that I can. Remember, when you're going out to market using all these different ideas and techniques, there's 100 ways to introduce yourself. And I'll share with you this great little slide that shows countries and their different ways of marketing. Some good, some not so good, but that's another subject. You get that one chance, especially on video, or you get that one chance on internet to introduce yourself. Everybody talks about sustainability, authentic, travel, whatever it happens to be. The one thing to remember is be yourself. You've got all these stakeholders. Don't say we're just like this, we're just like that destination. Be yourself, just like you are at the PATA conference when you meet somebody. The best thing to remember, I always like, is when you be yourself, everybody else is taking, be yourself. And with that, I say thank you. I'm more than happy to answer questions later on today. I'll be here all day. And once again, I thank you for the opportunity and thank PATA for the chance to share this with you. Thank you.
Al, always a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us here today. So, I do have to sort of move things along. I know we're a little bit behind schedule. So our next session is the Traveler's Priority Gastronomic Tourism to Asia. So our next speaker will be talking about the importance of sustainable gastronomic tourism and its importance for the future of travel to Asia. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage. She's a Master Chef Asia and Singapore judge, chef, and author coming all the way from Australia. A big round of applause for Miss Audra Morris.
Good morning, everybody. Sawadee ka. How are we feeling today? Good? Did everybody enjoy your trip yesterday around Songkhla City or wherever you guys went? I know some were on the boat. I, of course, with the help, I've got special help because Liz gets all the information. So I obviously picked the tour with the most amount of food involved in it. That's how I travel. How many of you guys travel for food? Hands up. Come on. Yeah, I reckon the entire crowd here would be putting their hands up. That's me. I think I've been to Thailand many times before, Chiang Mai. I've had the real joy of having friends live in Thailand, so I get the local treatment. And every time I come here, I am absolutely blown away. And this time is exactly the same. Songkhla, never been to Songkhla before. I think what I found was, we were walking around old Songkhla, old town, and what this country does so well in is keeping its authenticity. And by that word's been used a lot. But it's real. I think that's the word I want to use. It's real. I have one rule about travel, which I'll share with you a bit later. But before I get into it, I really want to thank Pata for inviting me to be your Sustainable Gastronomic Tourism Ambassador. It's an absolute a thrill, and I'm very humbled to take on this role. You all know I cook for a living, so I can't go anywhere without my apron. Everyone's got these beautiful shirts, but I decided I had to put my apron on because this is my life. My life is all about food. So just before we came here, we had the joy of connecting with Chawadi. She writes. She was also very instrumental. I don't know if you guys watched the Street Food Thailand where they were featuring J-Fi. Beautiful story, and she was very instrumental in making that happen. So we jumped on tuk-tuks. She asked us, what do you want to do in Bangkok? So I said, well, we said, local food. And we jumped on tuk-tuks. We experienced torrential rains in Bangkok. We got drenched. But the beauty about it was we went to a couple of local noodle places. And one of them in particular was run by a 75-year-old lady, and she's been in business for the longest time. And I absolutely loved it. And that's what gets me excited about traveling. Now, I read an article in a magazine in Australia not so long ago, and it was an interview with one of my biggest idols. Her name is Joanna Lumley. John, you'll know who she is. She's a comedian. Beautiful. Started out her career as a model and became an actor, a comedian. And she said she was repeating the saying, if you want to meet a wise man, don't meet one that's been studying books. Meet one who has been widely traveled. Because travel informs you like nothing else does. And she goes on to talk about good travel and bad travel. And it's really not about just jumping on a plane, going to your hotel, and missing everything in between. And there are various types of travel, and I don't want to discount that because everybody is motivated by different things, right? But the way I travel is, and I think a lot of people feel the same, you extract yourself out of where you are. All of us are horrendously overworked, and it's about spending time in that particular country, taking public transport, talking to people, meeting people, learning a language, learning about the culture, visiting basically for that period of time, you're actually living a life in a different country, right? And what's the best way to do this? My opinion, it's food, right? You learn so much about the culture and the people through food. And if we can keep that as authentic and real as possible, then, we're really educating the world, aren't we? So I want to just touch on sustainability. That word gets thrown around a lot, and I reckon a lot of times it gets misused quite a lot. So if you look at it in layman's terms, the most basic form, sustainability means to be able to maintain and support a process continuously over a period of time. So we allow our, friends and family in the future to experience what we experience today. And it's so important that we do that. And it's not just from a tourist perspective, it's actually for much more so, I see it from the other side, and it's for the host country, right? If you do something that is so normal, if you offer a service or cook the food that is so normal to you that you cook for your family, when your guests come around to your house, you cook for them, you're going to be, I think, without a doubt, you'll be so much more proud of continuing to do that. And it gives you a sense of a huge pride, right? But sustainable gastronomic tourism is not just just food, just cooking food. It's bigger than that. It's really taking responsibility in terms of where the food is produced, making it sustainable, growing stuff that works well in your climate. So your farmers, it starts from there, the guys who actually grow the produce or produce the product. It's a reflection of your culture, and then it gets taken to, supplied to restaurants or all the food outlets. Those guys put their spin on it, whether it's a huge reflection of their regional culture, whatever it might be. And then the foreigners that come through get to enjoy it, and they get to understand this culture so much better. And I think that is so critical that we maintain that, so that people actually don't lose their realness, their identity, who they are, where they come from, right? And it's so, what I'm saying is, in terms of sustainability, it's not just an economic issue. It's got to impact them socially and culturally in a positive way. The thing we talked about, I think Alan touched on this before about, what's happening on this planet. I think we have to take responsibility, and as a chef, I do take responsibility in ensuring that we actually grow and develop so that we offer produce, we offer dishes, we do things without depleting our natural resources. We've just got to do it, and let's stop talking about it and start doing it. All right, I want to share a few stories. Now that I've gotten all that out of the way, I want to share a few stories with you. My number one travel rule, and my family does not have a say. I've got 2 sons and a husband, and we go local, only local. And because I get to organize the holidays, I get to do what I want. And as much as they sometimes go, oh, Mom, can we have, something Western Italian? I'm like, nah. We're in Japan, we're eating Japanese food, right? We're in Thailand. Oh my gosh, we've had a feast since we arrived in Thailand, Bangkok. We've had absolutely from northern Thai food to southern Thai food, and it's been incredible. I want to share with you a place that I went to, one of my most fondest travel memories. And Alan touched on it before, it's Machu Picchu. Now, Machu Picchu is a beautiful place. It also gets managed very well, and they control the number of visitors that go on to Machu Picchu, that visit Machu Picchu, because of the sheer fact that they need to look after the place, right? It's thousands of years old. So when I started planning for this trip, I decided that I was really going to support. I wanted to find a local tour agent because I wanted to support the local economy. So we found this outfit. Beautiful people, so responsible, so hospitable, gave us all the information whatsoever. And we didn't take the train up. We did the Inca Trek, which is a 4-day trek. Not a very long distance, but because of the altitude, it's a little bit challenging. Although my Nepalese friends, it's not quite Mount Everest, right? That's a totally different level. And what was amazing for me over those 4 days of trekking, no showers, but that's okay. We got little hot water buckets every morning with nice towels and stuff. It was great. We slept in a tent. We figured if we were going to do this, we were going to do this the right way, to really experience nature at its best and the landscape. The landscape was phenomenal. But the 2 things that stood out for me, the guide, who knew the history of his ancestors like you cannot imagine. It wasn't just repeating words, it was actually talking about, it was emotional, it was mind-blowing for me. And the other most important person, can anybody guess who that was? We had 7 porters with us, he was one of them. The chef. The cook was my best friend. And it was incredible because I got to know so much about Peruvian produce, and I was absolutely blown away. Everybody knows what quinoa is, right? So the only way I knew to cook quinoa was put it in a salad, right? But this guy taught me how to actually make a breakfast meal, which was quinoa. It was I guess a cross between like a Milo or Ovaltine soup and porridge, like an oat porridge. And it was the most delicious breakfast I've ever had. And since I've been back several years now, I make that quite frequently. And I guess what I'm trying to say here, it's the people. It's the people that makes it. And the people who are so proud of their culture and their history, and it comes through their food. That comes through their passion for showing people their country. And that's something we have to remember. Another story for you. So I got approached by the Accor group several years ago after I spoke in another travel conference. And they approached me and they said, Audra, could you create a food tour for our members? And I said, sure. How many days? Let's go 4. Great. Should we keep it intimate? Yeah, of course, because I like connecting with people. So we started at 20 people. Within a couple of hours of them releasing the newsletters, it was filled up. So they came back to me and they said, can we do more? So anyway, we ended up with 50 people on this tour. We made it work. We made it work to maximize what the customers, the guests would experience. And the entire thing was 4 days of eating breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, and dinner. All the optional activities were fully booked. Everybody opted to come for everything. And here's the thing. I had people that were 18 years old with their moms. I had people who were in their 70s from country Victoria, who had never stepped into Asia in their whole life. And what do I throw them at the welcome dinner? Fish head steamboat. Included in that was fish maw, the stomach of the fish. I just gave them the full, go hard or go home, right? And I think at that point, some of them, I was watching this lady's face, and she was like, what is this? I am not going to eat this. But let me tell you, for the rest of the trip, I made them eat with their hands when we went to an Indian restaurant, a place that I used to take my father and my kids before my dad passed away. So it was a very personal trip for me. Everywhere we went, it was about the Malay cuisine. We had nasi ambeng where everyone shared this platter of food, and it was just, it was just such great joy. And at the end of it, we had a farewell dinner that I curated and worked with the chefs to produce. I want to talk about this old couple because I think people are naturally reluctant to commit, right? They're scared. And it takes someone like me, and there are plenty of people out there like me who will actually just coax them a little. They just need to be pushed a little. There was a running joke at the end, and we announced, the most changed individual. And I mentioned to her husband, I said, you came here with one woman and you're going back with another. Get ready for it. Get ready to rumble. And it was great fun. I am forever, I still receive a lot of positive emails and stuff from these guys, really commenting about what a great memory, travel memory that was for them. One more thing, sustainability. And I want to talk about some of the consulting work that I've done. So I've worked with a private island, private resort called Batu Batu. They're on the east coast of Malaysia, about 20-25 minutes by boat off Mersing. And they brought me in as a food consultant, and they said, can you actually redo our entire menu? Because at the moment, we're serving a lot of Western food that has no connection to this land, our history, our culture, our background. And it was very dated, 1990s style Western food. And a lot of people were coming away to the island. It's hot. So what we talked about that was important was their culture, the Malaysian culture. We talked about wanting fresh food. And that's not the greatest thing about this place. What Cher, the owner, did, she had a vision of transforming this place into a self-sufficient island. Now, if you operate on an island, my Maldives friend will be testament to this, you have to bring all your produce in, and you have to bring all your waste out, which is a very challenging thing to do. And think of the carbon footprint, the effort, the petrol that supports a lot of these bumboats that actually travel back and forth, back and forth. So what she did was she employed a soil specialist, a horticulturalist, and a ground engineer to look at what can they do to improve the soil quality on this island so that they can grow a lot of their own produce, so they can reduce their carbon footprint and become a lot more self-sufficient. They have the ability to grow whatever they want, depending on the seasons. And they also purchased 2 ride-ins. It's a composting green bag. And this thing, what you do is you feed, and I think some of you might be aware of this, you feed all your wet waste into this compost, churn it over a 2-week period, it produces incredibly nutritious compost for your land where you can actually grow your own vegetables. And how phenomenal that we can do that, right? So today, a lot of her business is actually supported through that eco cycle. You know, I call it an evergreen cycle. Sustainability is an evergreen cycle because it starts right from the beginning, the production of food. It then moves through to the people who actually cook it and process it and feed you, into the bellies of our tourists. And for them to actually come to your country, understand what you are so good at. The guys from Sarawak, I've got to say, you do that so well. My mother's side of the family is from Sarawak, and the indigenous greens that are grown all around. I think you've got over 160 varieties of indigenous greens that grow wild. Wild means it's easy to grow. However, let's not overuse it as well. And we've got to really make sure that we take care of it. So I want to leave you with a couple of things, couple of thoughts for whether you're in the whether you're a tourist board, whether you're a part of the government, whether you're a private enterprise, investors, hospitality, whatever it is. It's not, sometimes, yes, we talk so much about the fact that it's about let's create a home away from home for our tourists. But I want you to think about the other side as well. The only way sustainability will work in this industry in terms of food is to empower the local people, make them proud, fill them with pride and passion about their culture, their food, let them create an atmosphere where they can show that off to the entire world. And that will be what makes them unique. And they will do that for many years to come. So, help us create memories for people, travelers. Let's avoid that tourist trap and create something long-lasting and beautiful. And all tourists need is a little pushing like that fish maw that I served my Aussie clients. All right, thank you so much, guys. This afternoon I'll be talking more about production of how to actually commercialize production of local produce in a panel this afternoon. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening. Oh, sorry. I wanted to show you some pretty pictures. I know it's not quite lunchtime yet.
There you go.
Okay. So, very quickly, I won't take much time. Sorry, guys. These are pictures that I take when I travel, and for me, 2 things: people and food. This beautiful lady here, I bought a ton of quinoa from her. I bought this was in Peru. This was in Cusco. I couldn't help it. She just looking at her just sold me. Granadilla, which is from the, this was we cracked this open. It's like a passion fruit, but super sweet and juicy. When I got to the highest point on my climb in the Inca Trek was, I think, 4,215 or 18 meters. We cracked it open, well deserved. It was juicy. It quenched my thirst, and it made me feel so much like I was in Peru. Beautiful girl here. They grow and harvest the most incredible pomegranates. Mother was selling it with her daughter on the cart. It was so, you know what it is? It's nostalgic. It creates emotions. It invokes emotions. Broad beans, the porters were cooking that for us, preparing that for us. So that comes out of a huge pod, very delicious, very nutritious as well. Over 100 varieties of potatoes in Peru. It's so beautiful. Chirimoya, that's kind of like our soursop in Asia. So sweet, so delicious. And of course, pad thai, one of my favorite things to eat. But if you understand how pad thai is actually produced and processed, you will appreciate every piece, every little bean that you actually eat, right? Ladies, I see a lot of nodding there. Absolutely delicious. Sambal patai, best way to go. And of course, that was our guide, a very joyous and passionate individual that took us on the Inca trek. So, thank you so much again. Khop kun ka.
Big round of applause for Ms. Audra Morris. And as she said, you'll hear more from Audra later on in today's conference. She'll be part of a panel. You'll also hear more from Al, as he will be also joining another panel later this afternoon. We are running a bit late, so we have to have to move right along with our event here. So our next session, right before our coffee break, is Focus on Mice, the changing world of mice. Now, as we're looking at recovery, as I mentioned before, traveler behavior has shifted, and even corporate behavior has shifted. So what does the future of mice look like? You know, we've seen Zoom, we've seen this talk of hybrid. Well, is that the new norm? Will that be going on? Look, we hear from several different speakers about the changing world of mice, and as they set up the stage here, I will just remind all our speakers to please do keep the time. I know we are running late, so I want just to remind all of you to stick to the time. Timer is right on the clock. And if you have any questions about today's event, please do let us know. I know I've been asked questions. Not all presentations will be shared after the event. There are some speakers that asked us not to share them, but we'll make the presentations available for all the delegates here today. Just give us a week so we can get that out over to you. And as we've set up the stage, we're all done here, gentlemen? Okay. I think we want to ensure safety, so I think that we want to ensure there's a meter between each seat, as you know, we want to protect not just our speakers, but yourselves, and also local communities that we are interacting with here as we're in Songkhla. So I believe that is a good distance, a meter apart, following our safety protocols very rigorously here. We ready, gentlemen? I think we're good. So, our first panelist, please welcome to the stage, back to stage, the Senior Vice President of Mice Capability and Innovation from TCEP. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause to Kun Supawan Tirarat. And joining her on stage, all the way from Japan, she is the chair of the Japan Mice Association. Please give it up for Miss Naomi Mano. And rounding off the panel, he is the Senior Director of Sales and Operations at Cvent. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Will Cataria. And moderating this panel, welcome back to the stage, PATA CEO, Ms. Liz Ortiguera. Liz, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Paul. And my thanks to Kun Supawan, Naomi, and Will for being with us here today. You're well coordinated. It looks like you went shopping in the same place.
The shirts look great.
It's very nice pattern.
So I've got a series of questions for you. With the various regions in different stages of recovery, to what extent have you seen event bookings covering each of your markets or areas? I'll start with you, Kun Supawan.
Sorry, once again, please.
With the various regions in different stages of recovery, to what extent have you seen event bookings recovering in your market?
Oh, well, actually, in Thailand market, it's picking up. Okay, before the COVID, I still remember 2019, we got the great figures than ever. We can earn, I think, about $7,500 million a year. However, during the COVID, it's dropped down almost 80%, but 20% is come from the domestic consumption that we changed. And this year, we start to reopen the countries and recover, but the figures bring up about 20% increase. For next year, we expect the figures to be like almost half of the 7,500 that we expected. So I believe that every country right now is open the countries, and especially when we're talking about business event, it bounced back faster than tourists actually, tourism industry. So in Thailand, we expect the full recovery within the next probably 2 years, but next year it's gonna be picking up very good. And we got a big crowd from the university, incentive travel, 10,000 people just come to Bangkok right now this week. And also we just hosted the Global Women Conference, which is about 3,000 women across the world being in Bangkok. So our challenge is how can we move or pitching other city to be the host city instead of going to the capital of Bangkok right now.
Interesting to hear MICE is leading your recovery, and we hope we're contributing to that today. So Naomi-san, I know we appreciate that your market is not fully open yet, and there is limited travel in and out by Japanese citizens. How do you see MICE opening at this early stage, and what do you anticipate?
In terms of Japan, and I'm really sorry for the experience that Peter had to face today, yesterday, coming in to Thailand through Narita. But we're actually finding that the MICE market is starting to pick up. Although the borders are not fully open, in terms of business travel, it is opening up. We are already starting to see the pickup of bookings for smaller meetings and incentives as well as events starting September this year. We're seeing that a lot of people have not met the Japanese clients, so a lot of board of directors meetings are happening in Japan, including C-level events, CEO conferences, chief marketing executive conferences, and so on. So we're hoping that post-September into spring next year, we're going to see the buildup of meetings and incentives and events again.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. And Will, as CVent, you've got a broader purview across the region. What are you seeing in the current MICE situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our experience is a little different because we power events and we have the technology behind it. So I would say we cover APAC. So I think the recovery has been very different for different markets. It's interesting for us in APAC because every 1,000 kilometers, the rules around events and meetings and travel is very different. So for instance, countries that have more inbound, like local travel, the recoveries is faster. Singapore, for instance, where I am from right now, is we are looking at MICE and corporate events which are happening at a decent scale, still not a very large scale, because we still can't get travelers from China and Hong Kong, which is a majority of people coming over to Singapore. Japan, as Naomi mentioned, right? I mean, there are still restrictions. We're hosting events with our customers, but most of them are virtual and hybrid in nature. Not really large scale as we used to see. And then, of course, Hong Kong, China, we all know, right? They're still in a kind of a lockdown kind of situation. Malaysia is opening up, but still they're not at that level. Most of the MICE events are local and with local travelers, and they're also looking at hybrid kind of events right now versus attracting people from different countries. So I would say local events, yes, there's an advent to it, and that's kind of bringing it back, but international travel happening, but still at a very low scale.
I see. So you're seeing like an incremental staged recovery unfolding?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, interesting. So I'll come back to Kun Sipawan and ask each of you, what key trends are you seeing with the restart of MICE?
Okay, first trend, I think technology is a king right now. We already experienced this during the COVID for 2 years that we have to use a lot of digitalization transformations, social distance, facial recognitions, all the virtual events. So it's also continue and proceeds, in the future for technologies. And we mentioned a lot about sustainabilities and even more because MICE or business event initiative is gathering of the people, professional people, quality delegates. However, every time when we organize the event, it will come up with the waste of food, waste of the material, and so on. So in the business event, almost every country have the policies to embrace with the sustainabilities. And for Thailand, the government already implement a campaign called BCG. It's a bio, circular, and green economies that we received the initiative from our late King Ramanai. And the Prime Minister already mentioned that Thailand has to be free of the carbon neutral by in the next 6 years in the future. So every supporting event by TCEP, we have to kind of force all the organizers, especially domestic organizers and internationally, have to do the net zero carbon or carbon neutral. So we have the calculation and so on. So this is one of the tips. And the last one, before I pass to the others, I would mention about the communities. We can learn that experiences is also one of the attraction that every delegates are now looking for, especially with the new generation. So how can we make the differentiation between countries or destination to one destination? Community-based, you have the community-based tourism. We also have the community-based MICE for MICE. And the standardization of the communities would be, maybe I can say, even though it's authentic, but remember the expectation from the corporates, it's more than FIT or other tourists. So we're trying to upgrade or doing the standardize of each communities that we try to lift them up and be the destination for MICE.
That's excellent. Technology, sustainability, and community-based. Actually, community-based, we had thought about that as a leisure trend. But this integration with MICE, and actually you'll see it here through this conference, we felt it was really important that we didn't want to lock you just in a conference room. We wanted you to have a sense of place and an experience. So we're bringing those two trends together. Thank you. Naomi-san, are you seeing similar or something in addition?
I want to focus on maybe one more thing that, in addition to what was already discussed, but one of the trends that I am seeing is a trend towards wellness. And I think it was discussed earlier in some of the other speakers as well. But I'm also a part of the Wellness Tourism Initiative within the Global Wellness Institute. We're seeing that even with meetings and incentives, sustainability is obviously something that is deeply discussed at the moment, but wellness and giving a holistic approach to not just the content, but the activities that are being provided by the organizers, the food and the wellness component to food as well. So embedding wellness tourism into meetings and incentives is also a trend that we're seeing.
That's fantastic. So what we're hearing is a multidimensional delivery of MICE in different forms. You're appealing to different, and it's more humanistic in a way. Will, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I would say something in terms of trends around MICE events. First thing I would say for all of us in the room, organizing events and in the MICE industry, I think there's a lot more responsibility that we carry right now. First of all, the cost of hosting events has gone up significantly. When you factor in technology, you need more technology, you need digitization, you need safe events, safety management, COVID tests and everything. Everything costs more. So the events are more expensive, right? But at the same time, I think on the other hand, our events are getting smarter, events are getting better. So for the industry, for the long term, with COVID, what had happened is that we took 2-3 steps back because we were the industry that took it on the face, right? It was very difficult times for the events industry. But at the same time now, I think it's a bigger leap that we're taking forward. And we're also setting trends for the regular travel, leisure travel as well, with sustainability, with cultural, culinary experiences that we're driving, I think that's more of a longer term thing that we're doing. But not to remiss that it's more difficult for event planners and organizers right now. It is more challenging. But we're upskilling as well at the same time, right?
Great. And maybe I'll continue with you and come back this way. But people are craving to have, there are two different trends here. There are people that are craving to have in-person events, or do you feel that they're being even more highly selective about investing the time to come because they're sort of saying, well, I can be more efficient and not invest the travel time and just do it on Zoom. So you just commented that events need to be more impactful. What do you say? Do you see that they're being discriminating and being much more selective?
Yeah. See, we power Cvent, we power virtual events, in-person events, right? So we try and gather a lot of data around that as well with all the events that we've hosted, the customers, the events that they're doing. And as a matter of fact, we ran some surveys, and one of the results that we got is, first of all, in-person events is 3 times more engagement than a virtual event, right? And then because things have been virtual, there's a virtual fatigue as well. And I'm not just saying in person. If you look at people generally, they do want to go back to offices as well and not to stay at their home and work from home all the time, right? So I would say, yes, people are craving in-person events, but coming back to the first question that you asked, is it more so local travel? Is it like local delegates more that are coming to in-person events versus travel delegates, traveling attendees? I think it's more so local versus traveling right now because of all the difficulties that we have, right? Also, Asia Pacific has always attracted audiences from the West as well, right? When you look at Asia, I think Australia has been coming to Asia a lot. We have had conferences, even America, right? But right now, because of all the travel restrictions, we're not getting travelers as much for business events. But if you look at data on the other side, Asians are going more towards the West for leisure. They're traveling outside of Asia more right now than within Asia, right? So I think it's a mix of a trend, but yes, I think in-person is coming back and people want to do in-person events.
Well, maybe I'll probe on that. Why do you think they're traveling west more than in Asia?
Sorry?
Why do you think they're traveling more west?
I think it's experiential, perhaps, right? If you travel after 2 years, 2.5 years, and you're taking a holiday, you want to think, hey, listen, where do I want to take that holiday? I think it's also because certain, like for example, Europe is attracting a lot of Asia travel right now. Why? Is because they were one of the first countries to open up, right? They were one of the first countries to ditch the mask policy, right? And I think with vaccinations now and everyone traveling while vaccinated and open travel lanes, I think people are more inclined to go to Europe perhaps more so than traveling within Asia.
Okay, interesting. Naomi-san, are you seeing the same? More
Yes.
selectiveness, a propensity to go more west than within the region?
We're also seeing that in Japan, people are traveling more to the west, you're right. And also because I think Japan is one of the most backwards in terms of the regulations on travel as we're seeing it at the moment. So they feel that they're so restricted. And being in Asia, it is still restricted. I think Asia is a lot more restrictive in terms of COVID and their attention to COVID and safety. And it's more open in the US or in Europe. So we're seeing a lot of our clients are actually choosing, a lot of our domestic clients are actually choosing to travel westward, whether it's Europe or whether it's the US, and they don't have to wear a mask, whereas in Japan they will feel so restricted that they will never take off their mask wherever they are. So we're seeing that as well.
Kun-Sip-Wan?
I think we have to separate the type of business. When we're talking about MICE, it's not only the meeting or the corporate meetings or incentive. We are also covering some kind of exhibition, trade shows, and also the festival that we are already included in. For the corporate meetings and incentive, people are now looking for the pick up of the economies in Asia. So a lot of corporates within Asia Pacific now looking for having a corporate. Look at Thailand, for instance. After we reopening our countries, a long list of the global event coming to this Asia, and Thailand is pitching or bidding for it. So I see the long line on the list of this growing. And when we're talking about the trade shows or exhibitions, it's very growing in Southeast Asia and also in Asia Pacific, because there's a lot of projects going on in each country. So basically the organizer from Europe or from the States, they cloning what we call geo-cloning their shows to our region. So there are high trend of exhibitors from Europeans and from the States or even in Asia are growing and trying to exhibit there within the new shows in order to, focus on the destination that they are looking for their visitors. So in conclusion, in-person experiences still are the long for, I can say the long for after we've been missing for 2 years, and it will be growing. But for the corporate and incentive, it's a very sensitive business. They come fast and also they go fast. They bounce back very fast. So there will be less event because most of the corporates, they still think that they can do in online meetings. But anyway, once a year or twice a year, they will have to meet with their chain, their group of companies. For the trade shows or exhibitions, I definitely, especially those organizers from the European, they kind of agree that in-person trade show will come back, and they think that hybrid activities like conference, that they can do it also. But at the end of the day, people still need to do face-to-face. This is the charming of the business event.
Yes, and I think we've all experienced the strength of both formats. Virtual, you can reach very effectively, it's very efficient in your time, and then the chance to connect physically, in person. Now, you mentioned trade shows. Do you see, and I know this question has been raised among industry colleagues, do you feel that the travel mart concept will evolve or stay the same as it's been? Does it need to innovate, and do you see that moving in another direction?
Related to the exhibition concern, they used to mention that they're quite against with the virtual, and they said they will never be disrupted with the technology because they believe that face-to-face is the core of their business. Until they are facing with the pandemic during the past 2 years, quite a few key organizers in the world, they're trying to do or change their pattern into virtual business, but not so successful. I mean, not everyone so successful. And now when we can reopen the countries again, they still believe that technology is part of their shows, but not really changing, totally to the virtual. They still believe in the hybrid, and a lot of technology will support the event to have their visitors, the exhibitors gain more experiences. But, through the technology, it's very tough, how to change the behavior or how to do more experience with the technology. So from the recent year, last year to this year, they are finding that, especially in Thailand, they are finding that when they organize the physical event, the number of buyers or the number of visitors decline. But they got the new customer segment online. However, almost 80% of the shows, the organizer mentioned that surprisingly, they got the quality visitors to their show instead, and they are satisfied with it.
So Naomi-san, do you anticipate any interest in changing the travel mart concept yourself?
Well, I was just going to say that before COVID, in 2019, I think it was, I was also invited on stage, and we were talking about how travel is meant to be immersive. And I think it's very, very difficult to give our clients or our agencies an immersive explanation of our destination virtually. So to be really honest, I think there's a long way to go before we're able to actually integrate that and be able to give an immersive experience virtually. So I do think that it's something that's going to take a lot more innovation. What do you think?
Immersive.
Yeah, sorry.
What do you think, Will?
No, I think you're right, because there's only much that you can do virtually. You cannot give the same experiences. And with the limitations that we have had, I think the good thing though is technology has come to the rescue, right? Technology has gotten better. The innovations that's happened in the events industry in terms of technology in the last 3 years is more than what had happened in the last decade, right? And that's something because planners could have hosted an event, in-person event, without using technology. You could just register people, get them in, and you're done, right? Whereas now, people have to upskill, they have to learn, and they need to take the challenge. And I think the concept will stay, travel marts, right? I think it's just about of time. Hopefully, if there's no new variants, I think people are overall in the right spirit to host in-person events. People there's a want, there's a demand, and there's a desire as well for organizers as well as attendees to meet in person. Hopefully, if the restrictions are lifted by next year and it's more eased out, then I think the industry could be back to track within the next 18 months, I would say.
Oh, I hope
At least
so.
70 to 80% recovery in the next 18 months, if things go well.
I hope so too. We have time for one last quick question. Name one tip you would give for running a successful MICE event. Could Sipuan?
Actually, there's quite a few answers. But for me, I think we have to go back to define the objective and goal before executing or doing any planning. Because if you don't know what is your objective, what is the end, in mind, then you will not be able to think of the whole process. To define the goal or objective, you'll be able to know who is your audience, what kind of segment of customer, and what are the plan that you will be able to do, what kind of communications and so on. So define your objective and goal first.
Okay, so starting with the right objective. Naomi-san?
I want to go back to what Al mentioned earlier. It's one of the things I think we have done with some of our events, because our events are smaller scale, 200-300 people. But flexibility is going to be really, really important going forward. Flexibility on the planner side, flexibility on the attendees, flexibility and ensuring communication so that flexibility is maintained. I think that's one of the keys to success for the events going forward.
Completely agree. Flexibility from the travelers and the planners, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And Will, what's your number one tip?
My tip is be brave, be courageous, go with it, host the event, even for the attendees as well as the organizer, take it in the right spirit, because frankly speaking, MICE will lead to a recovery to the whole overall travel and tourism industry if we can see events happening at a large scale. Right, for example, look at Songkla, right? We are all here today, but if it was not for this event, a lot of people might not have traveled per se, right? But we have, it opened a perspective. Thailand, if we can host events, new convention center coming up, it's fabulous. Liz, you told me about that, remember, when we discussed about it. I think having the right venue and attracting thousands of people for a show and events will lead to that recovery, right? So, and one addition to that, I would say, because I am with CVent, is embrace technology. Embrace technology, it's your friend. Don't be scared of it. Upskill yourself, learn, and I think this will only help you in putting better events together.
Great. Be brave, be courageous, and embrace technology. Thank you so much to my panelists, and appreciate your being here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Big round for our panelists and a big round for our moderator. Thank you so much, Liz. Fantastic session. To keep it on time, you guys can step off. Thank you so much. Talking about flexibility, we're going to be a little bit flexible because we are running out of time. And in the program, we give you 15 minutes of coffee break. We're actually going to have to short it down to 10 minutes. So with that, we're going to move to coffee break. Go grab your coffee. Go grab a snack. Come back in the room. If you have to take care of other business, go take care of that. But we are running a little bit more than a bit over time, but I do need you guys to come back here at 10 minutes, and we're going to start on time. It is 11:40. We're going to come back at 11:50 and start at exactly 11:50. So grab a coffee, grab a snack, and see you in 10. Thank you so much.